I don't want to sound like I'm glad that other people are suffering as I am, but like it's good to know that like I'm not the only one alone in this hell.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough. And when we do talk about it, many of us, including me, we're not very good at it. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations, and hopefully better conversations, with attempt survivors. Now, if you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, please reach out. Hello at suicidenoted.com, on Facebook or Twitter at Suicide Noted. You can learn about all kinds of other things related to this podcast, including ways you can support the podcast so that these conversations can happen and so that, hopefully, more people in more places feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. Check the show notes for that, and of course, a rating and or review on Apple or Spotify. Of course, that helps too. Finally, we're talking about suicide on this podcast. We don't hold back, so please take that into account before you listen or as you listen. But I do hope you listen because there is so much to learn. Today, I am talking with C. C lives in New York, and she is a suicide attempt survivor. Hello, C.
Hi, Sean.
Where are you?
I am in New York. I'm in Long Island currently.
What town?
Have you heard of Port Jefferson?
Yeah, I grew up near there.
Oh, really?
Do you go to Stony Brook?
I did go to Stony Brook. I just graduated.
Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I grew up in like Smithtown, Comac, which isn't too far.
Oh my God. So crazy.
Now, I'm guessing, and I could be wrong, you didn't grow up there.
I did not. Yeah, I did not. I just came here for school and I kind of settled here right now because I like here and I like the people here. Yeah, after high school, I came here for school, but then I just got really attached to the people I work with and I met in school. So yeah, I want to get a job here. Yeah, I am currently working, but I want to get a job that makes me enough money.
You into the K-pop?
Yeah, of course.
Who's your favorite K-pop band?
K-pop band. Have you heard of SHINee?
I haven't heard of any of them.
Oh, really? Okay, so SHINee is literally basically the generation before BTS. You've heard of BTS, right?
No, yeah, totally.
I feel old these days.
Okay, originally from South Korea. How old are you?
Oh, yes, I am 22.
Oh, yeah, no, totally old. Old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
You know, I've listened to like a lot of your podcasts and like, again, thank you for making this. And because like, it's like for people like me, it's like, I don't want to sound like, oh, I'm glad that like other people are suffering as I am. But like, it's like also like, it's good to know that like, I'm not the only one. Like, I'm not just like alone in this hell.
Are you in hell?
Well, yeah, life feels like hell.
How long, if you know, have you felt that way?
So like my life wasn't, I mean, I don't think anyone's life is like just peaceful and just flat, So I had suicidal thoughts since I was like really young. It's just that I think it's like as a young child, it's the fear of death, the fear that I'm missing out on something good in the future that kind of held me from doing anything.
Right.
It's just this year I was like, okay, so like I waited enough. I waited long enough. I worked hard enough. Nothing's really getting better. And I don't think there's any guarantee in the future that it's going to be better. So yeah, I was like, okay, I'm leaving now. And that this year was like the first time I actually like acted upon my thoughts.
So you're 22. And so it sounds like for many years you've been, can we use the word ideating, thinking about it seriously?
Yeah, thinking about it.
What stopped you?
Just like I said, it's the fear of the pain that's going to come from the action.
Like, in other words, you feeling pain?
Yeah. Yeah, like physical pain. I think that's the hugest part, the physical pain that's going to come with it and the possibility of failing the attempt and, the humiliation coming from that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like all the fears of like what's going to happen if I actually act upon it. But then when the fear of future just was like overriding the fear of death, that's when I actually made an attempt.
Yeah, because you're dealing with fear of physical, you're dealing fear of, like you used the word humiliation. Like if you survive, then what? Or if you succeed, people think things. I actually don't know what it's like in Korea with your family, but I'm going to guess that it's probably judged pretty harshly.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah. Like a lot of places.
And it's like I grew up in the country where mental health is considered. So when people say like I am not able to do this because I am currently like
Hmm.
mentally ill, they just think it's like the matter of weakness and strength.
Right.
But you don't say that to a person that's like suffering from cancer. Yeah, and if someone is suffering from cancer and they can't go to work or something, they don't say things like you're lazy, you're just
Mm.
not hardworking, you just don't want to work.
Yeah.
But when people say things like I'm really mentally not well and I can't go to work, they're like, okay, you just don't want to work then. So that's like the difference in perspective.
As you've gone through your life and stuff has happened, the hard stuff, to have people said stuff like that to you?
I wouldn't say like people. First of all, I didn't really open up to people that much. It was my parents. They're like, I mean, you're not the only one who's stressed. Well, everyone is stressed. That's
Hmm.
like their reaction. Everyone is stressed. It's not just you. They just deal
Right.
with it, which means you have to as well.
Both of your parents.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I don't really open up to them.
Why would you?
Yeah, yeah, right. Because like if their only thing they're gonna tell me is that I'm just being lazy.
Right.
Yeah.
No
And I'm
thanks.
just not hardworking and I'm like, I just don't want to work. Then I'm like, okay, then I'm not going to tell you anything.
But what do you tell them when you talk to them, if you talk to them?
This is like similar to what I tell, like psychiatrists as well, because the experiences in the hospital and like the involuntary hospitalizations taught me, like, I learned in a hard way what to and what not to say to therapists or psychiatrists in order to prevent future hospitalization. Just giving them the response that they want, not something that's actually in my head. So like if they ask me like, "Oh, how are you doing in school?" and I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing great." Like, even if I'm not. It's like all about like lie, lie, lie. After lying every time, like I get to this point, I'm like, if like I can't really talk to anyone about what's in my head, then what's the point of like going to my doctor's appointment and all that? And that's how I like started looking up the podcasts or like TED Talks about people who are like very honest about their own experiences and who have similar experiences as mine.
That's how you found this podcast?
Yeah,
It's probably some good TED Talks too.
seen some TED Talks about people who've made like multiple attempts in their past. Yeah, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, like this person like is gonna know like what it's like to live in hell. That's how I kind of like find comfort. It's temporary, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what most people seek out all the time in some way, right? You were feeling this way when you were living in Korea for part of that time too, growing up.
Yeah, yeah, of course. At that time when I was younger, I still had like a hope,
Yeah.
like a little bit of hope that like, oh, I'm gonna be like I could be happier if I, get older and become more independent from my parents. Actually, it's my parent, my mom. My dad was always working, so like he wasn't really involved in this like emotional, verbal, like physical abuse. But yeah, it was mainly my mom who had like really high expectation towards me in terms of academics and some achievements. Yeah, I was like, okay, if I become independent as an adult, get separated from her, there is a chance that I could be happier.
Yeah.
Now I am independent and I am separated from my parent. The trauma is still there. Like I have other stressors. Got to this point where I'm like, okay, like bad things just always happen.
What did you study?
I studied biochemistry.
Very interesting. I don't really know what it means, but it sounds interesting. And you're still on Long Island. Port Jefferson's a nice little town. Now,
Mhm.
let's talk about how many times have you tried to take your life?
So I actually got out of hospital on the 3rd, November 3rd. So that was my fourth attempt.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What's today?
Today is November 8th, I believe.
How long ago did you reach out?
I think I got your response a little after like I went to the hospital. Like I just woke up in the ICU. I never So like when I reached out to you, it was when I was like really like feeling like suicidal, I think. I was trying to make something that I can look forward to, which was, being here. And then a few nights after that I like started drinking and you heard of the term like licorice, right?
Liquid courage. See, I'm very familiar with it. Yes.
Yeah, so I started drinking and then I had my sleeping pills next to me. I was like, you know what? Like I just told you that this is my fourth attempt. My first one was back in April, which is like 7 months ago.
Right?
The thought that came into my head that night, the night of the 15th, a little after I reached out to you via email, I was like, okay, so I was supposed to be dead back in April. It's not a big deal if I just die now. I was already drinking and then, I overdosed on my sleeping pills.
In
Mhm.
April, after
Mhm.
struggling for many years, and you're about to finish college, back in April, you overdosed liquid courage as well?
Yes.
I love that you're using that term. All right. When is the second attempt?
Second attempt was June.
When was the third attempt?
Third attempt was September. So actually, the term between third and fourth attempt, fourth hospitalizations were like 2 weeks.
In April, you try to end your life with pills. You go to the hospital. June
Mm.
overdose, go to hospital. September overdose.
No, September was not overdose actually, because in September I no longer had any pills that I could overdose on. Because if you have like history of overdosing to like commit suicide, doctors take you off of that medication.
How
So
did you try?
I tried to hang myself, but this is gonna sound funny, but like hanging yourself is like very painful. Just so
I mean, I would guess that. Yes.
it's very painful, and it's like my survival. I wasn't even drinking that day, so like so when you drink, you get kind of like not kind of, but you actually get really numb to pain.
You're talking to a borderline alcoholic. See, I know these things. Come on.
Yeah. The thing is, I wasn't even drinking. I was very sober. And then the second the string like touched my neck, it was so painful. I was like, it's my survival instinct. Even if I want to die, it's my
I
body
get it.
that's like naturally reacting to it. And then I somehow managed to like get the thing off my neck. Yeah, I failed. I had an appointment with my psychiatrist the day after. I really like talking to this doctor. We're having conversation and then I somehow like mentioned that I have attempted but failed. Yeah. And he was like, okay, like I'm glad that it failed and I'm glad that you're here, but since I know that you were almost about to kill yourself, like I am obligated to send you to the hospital to be evaluated. That was September.
Just to be clear, same hospital you had just been in the prior month.
Yeah, the 4 hospitals, like, they were all the same hospital.
Right. And you had been evaluated each time.
Yeah, yeah.
I get what he's doing, but I guess you just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I know this is no easy solutions here. When you get out in September, not long after that, had you already found the podcast by then or you start looking?
That's when I started looking. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
You listen, you decide to
Mhm,
reach out. And at some point after reaching out and our back and forth, you try
mhm.
for a fourth time with pills
Yeah,
and you're back in the hospital, the same
mhm,
hospital for a fourth time.
yeah.
And you got out last week. On your first, second, and fourth, because I know for the third, your doctor sent you there.
Mhm.
How did you get to the hospital? Why did you go to the hospital?
Okay, so the first attempt, so I overdosed. Yes, like, I did drink a lot, like, prior to the overdose, but this one was actually planned for, like, the whole month. Yeah, I planned the day I'm gonna go, and then I planned what I'm gonna do, of course. Back then, of course, it was my first attempt, so I didn't have any history of overdose. So my doctor was able to just prescribe me a month worth of sedative. So I took 40 with the alcohol, like a lot of alcohol. The thing is, it was my senior year in college. So I was really hard on myself in terms of studying to the point where I threw away my bed to not go to sleep. Where did I sleep? I slept on my desk, on the chair. It's like I studied until I passed out. So the thing is, since I didn't have my bed when I was knocked out by the pills, I was just like sleeping on my chair and I woke up vomiting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even feel nauseous. It was just like coming out of my mouth. Yeah. So I think that's the reason why I like didn't end up like dying over sleep. After throwing up, I went back to sleep because the pills are still in my system. It's still affecting my brain.
Just to be clear, when you say you go
Mhm.
back to sleep, you went back to sleep on your chair.
Yeah, yeah,
Got it. Sounds comfortable.
yeah. And then I was knocked out for like after that, like when I woke up vomiting, it was like 6 a.m. So like I was knocked out for another like 10 hours. And then I just opened my eyes and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still not dead yet. I was like really surprised. I was like, okay, like why am I like okay? why is my heart still beating? And then I was like kind of pissed. I saw my phone right in front of me. My friend was calling me. And then I noticed that she was blowing off my phone like for the whole entire day. And it was already, like I was knocked out for 10 hours. So like it was already like 4 p.m. when she was like calling me, and then she was like, "I'm at your door. Open it." And then that's when I noticed that I can't walk.
Mm.
And then I noticed that my vision was like very blurry too. I crawled to like open the door for her, and then she just like ran into my room. And then she saw like the empty bottle of pills. She kind of figured out what was going on, and she was like, "Hey, like I'm gonna call the ambulance, or you just get into my car and go to the hospital with me." Yeah, that was my first hospitalization in my life, like ever hospitalization, and
Hang on.
yeah,
How long did you stay there?
2 weeks.
Comfortable? Helpful?
No, no. I mean, like, to be honest, like, I liked the resident doctor that was responsible for taking care of me in there when I got sent to the inpatient unit. So people like the doctors there or like social workers, they always ask us, like, oh, do you still have suicidal thoughts? Like, we don't when we are in there because we want to get out of there. And I think that's a really like weird question to ask. Yeah, because like we first of all we give them the answers that they want, not the
Yeah.
question. I mean, not the answers that are really in our head, and we just want to get out of there because we're like locked in. It's like asking prisoners, "Are you ready to go home?" No one's gonna be like, "No, I don't want to go home. I don't like. I don't. I want to stay in jail like, a little longer than I'm supposed to." Like, no. The time they spent, the doctors spend with the one patient, 10 minutes.
Right, because we don't have resources. So they have one doctor instead of five. We have 10 rooms instead of 50. We have not enough ever. So who loses in that situation? Well,
hmm hmm
there are exceptions, but they're usually for very wealthy people.
Yeah, the doctor that I was talking to, I got really lucky. Like she was really good. She was very compassionate and I really appreciated it. It's just that like I have such limited time throughout the day to talk to her.
Yeah. So you're
So-
waiting, you're sleeping, you're eating.
And it's like the same food every single day too. It gets boring and I just like all I think about is just getting out of there, and I just found it as a place that just prolongs my life, not really a place that like saves my life.
So when I left the hospital, I've been in a hospital twice. The last one, when I left, I really so clearly remember wanting to get out. I'd driven myself there. So we got in my car and there was a few moments of like freedom. It felt great. And I
Mhm.
don't live that far from the hospital. And I remember before I even got home feeling like really petrified because I thought I'm going to go back to the same little home. Everything's the same.
Mhm.
Nothing has changed. Not good. So you get out, you go home.
Now I have a roommate that, found me after my first attempt.
Oh,
And she's a great friend. And after my first hospitalization, she has been really supportive. She still is. I have great friends and they have nothing to do with, me wanting to die.
when you got back,
Mhm.
you moved after school, and in June, try again. You go
Yeah.
back for how long to that hospital?
It was the second attempt. I was only hospitalized for a week.
Same doctor?
Yes. The night before my attempt. So what drove me to that point, that like really suicidal point. I was crashing really hard from the withdrawal because my psychiatrist took me off of that sedative, that medication that I overdosed on. And he was putting me on alternatives, but they were not working as well. The reason why I was getting those medications prescribed was because panic attacks, and it was like very painful. Like it
Yeah.
seems like somebody's just like jumping on my heart. And I was just like so done with it. I was like, what, why do I have to go through this every day? I didn't really see the hope of it getting better without having that medication again. So I was like, okay, like I know that he's not gonna give it to me again. I also can't promise that I'm not gonna overdose again when
Right,
you know
right.
this time I didn't have that sedative, but like I had like bunch of like sleeping pills prescribed to me that are not as lethal, but like I just like took like every single one of them, drank a lot, and then I just like took a month worth of every single one of them. I
Wow.
was just hoping it would like some kind of like lethal like
Yeah.
reaction. Again, this friend that found me in my first attempt, she came to my apartment again.
Wow.
Again, she found like those empty bottles under my desk this time. And she saw like the empty glass of alcohol that I was drinking. And this time she just called 911 on me instead of just taking me there. Because of course, I refused to go to the hospital. I was like, no. And I even told her, I was like, I didn't take all these, but she didn't believe me, of course. Yeah. And that's how I was taken to the hospital.
You get out.
And yeah, and then I got out. And then 3 months later, yeah, I tried to hang myself. It's always in my head that I was supposed to be dead, like back in April. Like after that, it's like it's much easier to just like act upon my thoughts. I've already kind of been there. I know, like it's like it's not like I'm like losing my time. It's more like I'm like right now I'm living in like an extra time that was given to me.
I would think, though, that if you feel that way dating back to April, it would be hard to apply for a job, get up every morning and go to your job. Like, is it hard?
I mean, honestly, going to work is not that hard because first of all, I don't really hate my job that much currently. But what's actually hard is like taking care of myself. If like the reason for going to work for most people is like mainly because of money, right? Like you need money to, pay your bills and all that stuff. Even though I think about dying almost every day, this apartment that I'm staying, I have to pay for that. Yes, I could be dead by tomorrow, but like what if I'm not dead by like next month? I need to pay the rent for that too.
I got you. I got you. So you got
Yeah. So that's like the motivation for me to go to work. And it's also kind of like a distraction from like having those suicidal thoughts for me. My job is like a customer service job. So we have to be very bright and energetic. Yeah. And I see like the same customers every day pretty much. Most of them are like regulars. So it's like, it's actually really nice like talking to them and just seeing them every day. But it gets to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate this. But that's how all jobs are.
a lot of them. As we've discussed, you had your fourth suicide attempt. That was also with pills.
Yeah, and this time it was like almost fatal, so I was kind of mad. I was like, oh my gosh, I was already like almost there. So
So
I
they,
was in ICU, and then I got transferred to like regular medical floor, and then when I was medically cleared, then I was transferred to the psychiatry unit.
so if one of the doctors had asked you while you were being wheeled into that hospital,
Hmm.
before we try to save your life, do you want us to try to save your life? What would you have said?
Oh no, of course. For me, I when I woke up in the like woke up every time during my attempt, I was mad, very mad. I failed again. I'm still here. I try to, make something that I can look forward to again.
Yeah.
So that's why I reached out again. I was like, oh, maybe it's a good like opportunity for me to talk to someone that's gonna say better things than, hey, you need to go seek a mental like health professional.
You're aware already that that's an option.
It's what makes it hard for me to like reach out to people, especially yeah, my roommate is my best friend. Like there's no doubt that she cares about me and she wants the best for me. When I share these thoughts, her conclusion is always like, "Hey, like go find a psychiatrist. I mean, not go find a therapist. You need to find a better one or something like that." And I'm like, I'm
Which
not going to search every single therapist in Long Island.
exactly. This is the ludicrous argument people make. It pisses me off. Oh, there's a gazillion fucking therapists. Should I spend the rest of my life just looking like what's happening in between that time?
Yeah, yeah,
My
exactly.
fucking God.
Yeah, and then, when we kind of get into, conflict, a little bit of argument, she's like, are you really trying hard enough?
I wouldn't be friends with her. You're a better person than I am. No, I'm serious. I can't deal.
Yeah, and then she's like, hey, like, if you don't help yourself, then no one can help you. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
And I thought I wanted to die, and you freaking ruined my plan every single time. Like,
Well,
so yeah, it's like the conversation gets to this like kind of pointless point. So I'm like, okay, like who am I supposed to talk to? Because like if I talk to my psychiatrist about like wanting to kill myself, then of course he's gonna send me back to hospital. And the past involuntary hospitalizations taught
this
me
is
what to and what not to say.
right.
So
And this is the thing that I don't hear talked about enough. I'm sure it's talked about is what I mean when I say there's nowhere to go to talk about it because people don't get what I'm saying. They say, well, no, you could talk to a therapist. You're not understanding what I'm saying.
yeah,
If you
exactly.
go to a therapist and you say certain things, I'm not blaming them. They're within a larger system that if they want to
Hmm.
keep their jobs, they have to do certain things. There becomes fewer and fewer people to talk to. Like your
Hmm.
roommate, who you have a good relationship with, but she's going to say, pick yourself up. She's going to say, try harder. She's going to say, see it. All right. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, whether you have mental illness or not, whatever you're dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
a natural, logical, understandable, reasonable response to that would be, I'm not going to engage with them, certainly not about this stuff. So you have fewer people to talk to and fewer people to talk to. That's how it is for so many people. It's a problem.
And it's hard. It's getting harder to be honest and harder to reach out for help.
And so people suffer and they die. I'm the crazy one. So
Yeah.
why not? And then you just stop talking.
And
Once in a
then-
while, you get and you find a podcast. We'll be done talking at some point, and then what?
Yeah, and like that's why I, needed someone that's gonna say better things than just go find a therapist or like who's actually gonna relate to this with their personal experience.
I think you need to go through it. Helps to go through something similar, but you don't need to go through this to have empathy. And
I think it's easier for people to just like come up with a solution and kind of like have judgment if they didn't really suffer through the same thing. Yeah, I think it's like empathy comes from, personal experience, for sure.
So just to be clear, see, if you got pregnant
Mhm.
and you were in pain, I couldn't be empathetic because I haven't been pregnant. People can do better.
Yes, you probably don't know the pain, but you can be like more compassionate. I think people just like try to come up with a solution and then they get mad at us if we don't like listen to their solutions or we don't like take that into account or something like that. But the solutions that they come up with, like we know that those are solutions. It's not like we're doing a math problem where like X is something, Y equals something. Like, no.
Right. I mean, it's absurd, really.
We know those are solutions, but those solutions are not the best solutions for us. And that's why I'm telling you these things.
Most of the time we know them. Most of the times we've tried them. We're adults. There's reasons we might not be trying them. And when
Mhm.
you offer particularly unsolicited advice or solutions, you're really fucking insulting. And the reason you're treating me like a 3-year-old, probably, if we're going to get really honest, is that's what you think of me.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want you to fix things for me. Like I really don't expect you to.
But see, you don't have a say in the matter. What do you know? That's what they think.
Yeah, right. And kind of like get the guilt like
Maybe.
off their shoulder.
I don't know if you're enjoying this as much as I am, but I like talking about this.
Yeah, me too. It's not like an easy topic to talk about, like even with psychiatrists, of course.
What I'm saying is I really like being mean to people. That's a problem. Excuse me for a second. I don't think I like being mean. It's just
Mhm.
I'm so tired of this rhetoric,
Yeah.
this garbage. It's garbage. It's
Yeah.
harmful. And I don't think I'm the only one talking about it. Certainly I'm not. But
Mhm.
please, got to be a little stubborn here. There's no middle ground. You suck at this. Get better.
Yeah, literally.
Or just fucking say, I don't want to get better and I know I'm doing harm and walk away. I'd respect that more.
Yeah, the conversation gets to that point, like exactly to the point where you just mentioned. And, I go like, hey, like, do you think I don't know? I knew that you were gonna just sit there and blame me for not trying harder
Right.
and not finding a therapist.
What you needed, you weren't getting. You're already struggling. It's already hard. Things are already difficult.
Mhm.
Now you're using your energy to
Mhm.
like try to explain to someone how they're not helping you. That's
Yeah,
where your energy is going. You're already fucking tired. Now it's
Yeah.
got to go to you. And I'm like trying to convince you that when you
Mhm.
tell me to do this, that, and the other thing, or you're
Mhm.
giving me these absurd things like
Mhm.
pull yourself up by your bootstrap, it's much easier for me to just stop the conversation. This is tiring.
Exactly.
It's becoming about you.
The conversation just becomes something like that we never wanted, something that we probably like shouldn't have had. And then, I regret like even talking to them about it.
I would just be like, I can't
Yeah.
have a relationship with you. That's a big problem, as you might imagine. You're better at that, sounds like, at least with one person. Now, let me ask you this question. You got out for the 4th time recently. At some point, does the hospital say you need long-term care?
Oh yes, of course. The attending physician that was taking care of me actually, she was like, you heard of the term pilgrim? The long-term hospitalization, some kind of like community for people who need like long-term care, and you never know when you're gonna get out. So it's kind of like the jail for people who are mentally ill. And she was like, hey, like I'm seriously considering sending you there. And I was like, what? While I was hospitalized this time for the 2 weeks, I was like doing my hardest to look like I'm doing so much better. And I have like so much passion towards my life because I really wanted to avoid that hospitalization. First of all, I don't know when I'm gonna get out once I go there. What's the point of being alive if you're gonna be locked in somewhere like that? Like it's not the quantity that matters, it's the quality. And I feel like this is like one of the problems when it comes to like mental health. Like, to a stage 4 cancer patient, you don't inject them something if they refuse treatment. But like when it comes to like suicide attempts, like depression, the physicians have more power over your body and your life just
Yep.
because you're labeled as mentally ill or suicidal. That's what really drove me crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so am I not considered a human because I'm mentally ill? Like,
Well, do
why?
you want a real answer to that or do you want a fake answer? I think you're very human, but you know how some people think. They
Yeah.
won't tell you that. That is true. That is
Mhm.
how they feel. And
Mhm.
because the only way to justify the way they operate in the world or the decisions they make or the words that come out of their mouths, the only way to
Mhm.
justify that is if they think you're either not human or not entirely human. You can't do those things and think someone's human. It doesn't add up, period. I'm on a roll today, see.
Yeah. That's like what really drove me crazy, like when I was in the hospital and when I was told that I'm just gonna get transferred against my will to the psych unit. Yeah, I
Again,
was like,
let's be really clear what C just said. Whether she was crazy or not going in, what drove her crazy was
Mhm.
the place itself.
Yeah. The nursing assistants, they open our doors while we are asleep every 15 minutes just to check if we are like all in the room. And I'm like,
Right.
first of all, we don't even have windows in there. Like, where do you think I'm gonna go? Yeah, every time they slam the door, it wakes me up and it's so hard to like sleep in there too. And then doctors ask me every day in the morning, they're like, "Oh, did you sleep well last night?" I'm like, "No,
Right.
did not."
Sleep isn't important. I know your roommate knows about all of your attempts.
Hmm.
Other than her, and I don't mean anybody in medicine, the medical
Hmm.
field,
Hmm.
does anybody else know about them?
Yes, there is my other friend who I'm pretty close to. She's not my roommate, she doesn't live with me, but she is also my coworker. Yeah, she was also like told about my hospitalization and she visited me like too when I was in the hospital. So like yeah, and my roommate's boyfriend, he knows because he's always with her.
How many people know that we're talking right now at 9 p.m.?
No one.
You're 22.
Hmm.
April, June, September,
Hmm.
October. Are you going to try again this year? Next year?
I mean, I think that's a good question, actually. I really don't know. Because, like, when I got out of the hospital in April, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not coming back here again. Like, I'm not gonna make another attempt anytime soon. But then, it happened in June and then, in September. And then after September, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not going back there again. I'm so done. I really believed my attempt in October was gonna be my last one. And it wasn't. But so I don't know if I'm gonna like make another attempt anytime soon. Like so far, nothing like super terrible happened, thankfully, not to like jinx myself,
Sure.
which is good. But like the thought is like I am a person who has been dealing with chronic suicidal ideation. If I were to die like tomorrow, I don't think I'll be so sad or upset about anything. If somebody just like tells me, somebody above who can like predict the future tells me that I'm gonna be dead in like 2 hours or something, I don't think I'm gonna be like so upset about it, if that makes sense.
Well, if you've heard the podcast, you might have heard the pink and purple pill question. Because given what you shared earlier about the fear of
Hmm.
hurting people or getting hurt in the act of trying to end your life,
Hmm.
if tonight I gave you a pill, you go to sleep, you're not in pain, and everybody else, and you die,
Hmm.
and nobody thinks it's a suicide, you just unfortunately died in your sleep, would you take the pill?
Like tonight.
I'll give you till tomorrow also.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, if I have the pill in my hand, I
Ooh.
think I'll make sure to like take care of like my bank account and stuff like that because I do have a beneficiary, which is my sister.
All right, let's make this simpler. It's all taken care of.
Like, yeah, and do take care of those things and then yeah, probably like consider taking the pill. Yeah.
Because the whole point of the question is I really just want to
Mhm.
gauge. If you want out, you want out,
And if it's like, yeah, if no pain is guaranteed, then
guaranteed.
I think that's gonna be like, oh my gosh, finally.
In fact, I'll even throw in like a great dream before you fade off forever.
I also have like mixed feelings when it comes to like suicide. Yeah. if my loved one were to like want to die, like it's kind of ironic that like I think I would want to, I would be really sad and I would be really worried and I would
Yeah.
want to help them. But the thing is, like, I do get really mad when someone is trying to like hold me hostage in this world against my will. Yeah, I think that's why it's hard to like put myself in someone else's shoe.
Do either of your parents know about any of this?
Oh, my parents know. They do know that I visit psychiatrist, but they just think it's because of like anxiety. They like surprisingly they weren't being too like judgmental about it. But that's all they know. I don't know what their response is gonna be. I don't really even want to think about it. If they somehow find out that I made like 4 attempts so far, or even just 1 attempt, I feel like they're gonna be like, "What did we not do for you
Yeah.
that like made you want to not be in this world?"
Did you ever receive a diagnosis that you think is correct?
Yeah, so I am diagnosed with panic disorder and major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, which I think is like associated with the panic disorder because that they are both like anxiety disorders. I hear about people dying all the time in media and everywhere. And I was actually thinking the other day, I was like, why is it so hard for me to die when I'm hearing about all these people dying in this world? When is it gonna be my turn?
Did you have an answer to that question or no?
Oh no, of course not. My friends and like doctors in the hospital, like that I talked to, like they say things like, like, don't you think there's no reason that you're still alive? Like, don't you think like you were meant to be in this world? And like, I don't know. Like whenever they say that, I'm like, well, like, I don't know, I guess.
Korean's a predominantly Christian country.
It's mostly either like Catholic or Christian.
You grew up that way?
So my mom is actually Christian. Yeah, my sister and I were both kind of forced to go to church. So we never had like freedom to choose our religion or anything. Yeah, I'm actually an atheist. Like I don't really believe in God or any kind of high power. I don't really believe in anything that I cannot physically see, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
And sister the same way?
My sister, I think so. Like all I know is that she's not religious.
Is she in Korea?
My sister, no, she also goes to the university that I went to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she's younger. She's 4 years younger than me. So she actually just went to college and I just graduated.
Same school.
Yeah, seems,
Stony Brook.
yeah.
Wait, do you talk to your sister much?
Like she's like a person that I love the most in this world. Yeah, I do have really good relationship with her. And since we grew up by, same parents, she's the one who can relate to me the most, I think, when it comes to like childhood trauma and all that. I think it's gonna be the case for almost everyone. If you're an older sibling, like you don't really want to talk to your younger sibling about like how you wanted to kill yourself. She knows that I visit psychiatrists. Like she knows about my diagnosis. She doesn't know the severity of it. For this hospitalization, the overdose, I made it sound like it was an accident. So I don't think she knows. Or maybe she could be pretending not to know.
Does anything help you feel better?
This doesn't, like stay for long, but being able to tell myself that, oh, like you're not the only one going through this. There are people who understands this. And
Hmm.
like right now, like I really am happy that I'm like able to talk to you today because
Me too.
like I really need to like kind of like let it out instead of having to worry about, oh my gosh, what if this person like just calls 911 on me and track down my location or something like that. Yeah, because like after my second attempt, like when the 911 came to my house, like they literally handcuffed me for being suicidal. And they like restrained me on this like horrifying bed. Like you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And then I was lying down with my arms on my back. It was hurting a lot. Yeah, and then I was like, what am I getting this kind of treatment for? Like being like I wasn't trying to like kill anyone, first of all.
A great question.
And the fact that they just like broke into my house after my friend like called
Yeah.
911, how is that legal? Like how is that okay?
That's a great question. How is that legal? And it goes back to, oh, I don't know if it is. I assume it is, but once the S word comes up, I feel like they can just do anything and get away with it. Anything. Break into your
And
house,
really,
push you down, punch you in the face, handcuffs, treat you like shit, and it's okay.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, what? Yeah. Yeah, it like yeah, the second hospitalization was actually like the most traumatic one. And I was like really upset at my friend about this, but like her response is like, "Hey, like I genuinely don't want you to die. Like what do you think I could have done at that point?"
Yeah, right.
And
It's
to some extent she's right. She is. It's like and it's not her fault that the police officers were acting that way to me. They
right.
should have known better way to handle mentally ill people. Yeah, that's when I noticed that like also like going back to like how people have more power over our life and our body when it comes to mental health.
Yeah.
You can just like label someone as mentally ill and then you're just like you have more authority over them.
And in
It
other
makes
contexts, you would be criminally punished and
mhm,
arguably should be. And that's not
mhm,
an understatement or that's not an overstatement. That's how I
mhm.
feel. Your behavior is wrong and bad and immoral and
Yeah.
unethical and not okay.
When I was in the hospital, when I was like full of grudge towards them, I was like actually thinking about like, should I sue them? And then I was like, wait, like the money that I'm gonna spend on the lawsuit is gonna be like
Of course.
I'm like labeled as quote unquote mentally ill. It's gonna be so much easier for them to get out of it.
100%.
So I was like, you know what? Like I'm not gonna waste my time and energy for this.
Did you have any thoughts like I had where you wanted to kill anybody?
No, never. Yeah, I just like I don't blame you though. Like I didn't want to kill anybody, but I became more suicidal after
No.
that hospitalization. I was like, okay, like this gives me more reason to die. Yeah.
But see, if you would just listen to us and do what we say, we would help you.
Yeah, and they're like and then they blame us for being like for making everything difficult by resisting being handcuffed. And like after like that hospitalization, I noticed that my whole wrist was like bruised. And then they held me really tight too. And those police officers, I barely weigh like 100 pounds, and those police officers, they were like at least like 200 pounds each one of them. Three of them just like trying to like get me. Yeah, it was horrifying.
Terrifying too. Fucking wish that they could be sued.
Those people sometimes who like want that kind of power who becomes police officers.
Well, that's a whole other conversation, but I won't
Yeah.
disagree. Yes, for sure. And I'm from Long Island. I know the type. I know those guys. So
Mhm.
I'll leave it at that. Are there any myths or misconceptions about any of the stuff we've talked about or any of this stuff at all that you want to discuss or dispel?
When people have loved ones that are chronically suicidal, they just trying to provide them with solution. But I think it's very important not to just like jump to like give them solution. That's really not what they want or what they're even expecting from you. And they know that there is no instant fix to this problem. Like you're not just gonna become like not suicidal within a day. And
Right.
we know that too. Like we know that. And this is what my roommate also likes to like lecture me on.
Mm,
He's like, hey, like this is life. There's no instant fix. I wish there was. Something like that. She says things like that. I'm like,
mm.
do you think I don't know?
Right.
If I want an instant pleasure, I would be into like gambling or some kind of like illegal drugs like heroin, but I'm not
Yeah.
because that's not what I want.
Right. You're struggling.
Yeah.
You don't. You could do other things that would be more pleasurable, which is proof that you're trying. It's
Hmm.
just weird. The whole thing is fucking weird. I don't want to go over it again. It's just amazing to me. I
And
think
then at
about
the
for
end,
more
they're
of
like,
you.
okay, I don't know what else to tell you. And I'm like, all right, this is why I didn't want to tell you anything in the first place.
I've had people, particularly like a little older generation, we didn't learn this. I don't know how. I don't know anything about this. We didn't learn how to talk like this. I don't know, but I get it. That makes it
Yeah.
hard. You could learn. Most people, unless you have like a major, I don't know, neurological or some other kind of condition that prevents you from learning, which is a real thing sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could learn. You learn other things. It's what you prioritize. You
Hmm.
wanted to learn how to, I don't know, play pickleball. You figured it out. You wanted to learn, I don't know, how to play guitar. You wanted to learn how to figure out how to do your taxes. You figured it out.
Hmm.
Man, I'm more bitter to than I usually am, but I'm glad. I like it. It feels good for me too. Get it out. I got to get it out.
Right. Like you were kind of like my last resort of like getting it out.
So wait, what happens when we get off the Zoom call here and tonight and tomorrow and the next day if I'm your last resort?
I don't think I'm gonna like like really talk about this with like an other person. That's what I meant by like last resort. Yeah, and like because I've been having just like having these in my mind like this whole time and just bottling it up. Yeah, I was never this comfortable like to talk about this topic. Yeah, I'm feeling like a lot like more comfortable than before for sure. I think it's gonna like kind of push me forward. And since I'm feeling better, I don't think I'm gonna like think about making another attempt anytime soon. It comes and goes like the thought when I'm feeling, like shitty. My brain just tells me like, okay, worst comes to worst, I'm just gonna kill myself.
Yeah, I get it.
That's how I've been like spending my nights these days. When I couldn't fall asleep, I just like listen to your podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been there. Oh my gosh, like I know what they're talking about. Oh my God, I'm not alone.
You
Yeah.
sound so American when you say, oh my God. Country girl from Korea sounding all American.
You know what? I actually got my citizenship last year, so I actually am an American.
Congratulations. How does that work? How'd you get that?
Oh, the citizenship. So my dad actually works here. He's an engineer. We were able to get the green card. And I think several years after getting the green card, you are qualified to take the citizenship test. And if you pass the exam, then that's when you become a citizen.
Suicide rate's pretty high in South Korea.
Yeah, it is, especially among like
Young
teenagers and 20s. And we hear about suicides a lot, when, especially the height of the buildings in the United States. Like schools are usually just like up to like second floor, as far as I know.
I mean, in some cities it's different, but sure.
Oh yeah, right. I used to live in like 11th floor when I was in South Korea, and then yeah, whenever I was getting suicidal and like I just looked down, there was a lot of times I wish I just could like throw myself outside. But, I was young, I was petrified of death back then, and then I still kind of like had hope that future is gonna be better if I survive. So I think that's also what kind of like pushed me off the edge. I'm like, because I was always telling myself, if I survive this, it's gonna be better. Okay, but if this is over, I'm gonna be better. Like I'm gonna be a better place, or things will be much better or less painful. But then we just learned that bad things just happen all the time. Bad things always happen. There are always things that drive us crazy that seems like it's not gonna get fixed.
Well, let me ask you one last question. You'd said earlier that one of the things you make these small goals or small things to look forward to is what you said. This was one of them. Do you have anything else lined up? Maybe tomorrow, next week, like a little thing or a big thing to look forward to?
That's a really good question. Actually, I was thinking about that today too. I was like, okay, so I have this meeting, like Zoom meeting to go to. What should I plan for tomorrow? My sister didn't get her driver's license yet. I just wrote that down the list. I was like, okay, until I see my sister getting her license, to be realistic, like once I'm dead, like my car is going to become hers. Like I need to see her getting the license, so I know that she's going to be able to drive if I'm not around anymore.
Well, you are a good big sister. That is clear. It's 9:30. What are you going to do before you sleep?
I actually didn't listen due to the hospitalization, of course, didn't listen to the last 3 weeks of podcast.
Oh, well, I hope you listen and I hope you like them, if it helps. And I hope you enjoy my Suffolk County, or continue to, whatever that looks like. It's where I'm from. Wishing you good things.
Me too. I really appreciate this.
Thanks for talking, Sue.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean. Bye-bye.
As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support. Special thanks to C in New York, my old stomping grounds, Suffolk County, Long Island. Thank you, C. If you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com, on Facebook or Twitter @suicidenoted. Check the show notes to learn a whole lot more about this podcast. And rate and review, please, Suicide Noted, in Apple or Spotify. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that is all for episode number 189. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I will talk to you soon.